So namaste and good evening, Ms. Sujata Tiwari, and welcome to the Author Experience conversations that we have every Sunday with inspiring authors from around the world. And thank you for joining in from Singapore. Namaste and welcome to the Author Experience conversations.
Thank you, Jerry, for inviting me.
You're welcome, and a very warm welcome to all the people who have joined us on Facebook Live. We are here to discuss Sujata's book today, which is called Against All Odds, and we will get to the book in a while from now. So, Sujata, to begin with, like we do with all our authors who join us on Sundays, if we had to ask you to get rid of all your titles and positions as a business person, as a professional, as a author, and just tell us what are the 7 descriptors which define Sujata the individual in the best possible way. What would those descriptors be? Descriptors could be nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, values, principles, roles, responsibilities. What would those 7 descriptors be?
Wow, that's a very unusual surprise question.
Yes.
But I like the question because I'm not into titles and designations.
Right.
I
Right.
believe that actions define a person.
Right. The
Leadership,
deeds, your contributions define you. Yes, very
yeah,
true.
leadership is not about designations, it's about actions.
Very true.
And what I would, if somebody had to ask me, I would say that I have principles which I follow.
Mm-hmm.
And I follow even if they may not always get me the desired results.
Okay.
I do not define myself according to people's perception.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little out of the ordinary, out of the box kind of a character.
Right.
And humanity or being human and kind is my religion. And
Right.
so it's to do with compassion. My
Mm-hmm.
conscience is very important because I go to sleep with my conscience. So I don't compromise on that. At the end
Right.
of the day, doing right is very important, no matter
Mm-hmm.
how challenging, life altering moments that you have.
Very
Having that
true.
compassion. I prefer to be in the company of animals.
Mm-hmm.
I find that human beings are, all the time very oxymoron. So they are challenging.
Right. So you told me about being human. You like working with animals. So you and probably a borderline misanthrope. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying I resonate with animals. I think that
Re-
they have a higher intellect than human species.
Right. So that's being human and kind, resonate with animals. That's 2 descriptors.
Compassionate, courage,
Compassionate,
courage,
courage,
resilience, tenacity.
courage, resilience. And you spoke about principles. So what are some of the principles that you practice?
I'm also a humanitarian and free thinker.
Yes, I got that. But what are the principles that you practice? When you said principles,
Yes.
what do you mean by principles, and what are the principles that you practice as an
So,
individual?
basically, what I believe in that I have ethics, some ethics of my own.
Right.
Those
And
ethics,
what would those be? That's what I'm asking you to
yeah.
elaborate on.
So those ethics and principles are very simply put that you do the right thing.
Right.
You do that always. For example, you don't compromise on your principles. If doing
Hmm.
the right thing is your core value, then
Hmm.
that's what you follow.
And how would you define what is right?
What is right? Okay, oh, that's a very easy one.
Right.
It's like when my daughter was raped.
Hmm.
Go straight to the kill. When my daughter was raped, most people would not go to court
Right.
because navigating a court system is very tough and challenging because in society there is a stigma attached to it. You get ostracized, re-victimized, and stuff like that. So most people would not take that decision to go to court. And in when you go to court, you don't know whether you'll get any justice, right? So you don't know what is the outcome of it. My principles is that you stick to your principles irrespective of the results. So I decided to go to court. So
Hmm.
when people say you can't do something, Sujata actually goes and does something. So
Okay.
it's always society telling you you can't do things. And I always say, why? Why can't I do things?
Right.
I have a right to try.
So what you're talking about is that you don't live in apathy. You believe in taking action. You believe
Yes.
in courage of conviction. Because,
Yes.
a lot of people, because, I actually teach leadership and I'm a leadership coach, and I
Yes.
teach leadership, and I also do a course on ethics and leadership in several B schools. And a lot of
Yeah.
professors who teach values and principles or values and ethics don't understand what the difference between values and ethics is. And that
Yes.
is why I asked you, what are the principles that you follow, right?
Yeah.
Because values are the way that we are taught to practice a principle. Like,
Yes.
for example, a lot of people say they're humble, but
Yes.
are they truly humble? Because if you're not treating the minister and the janitor with the same and equal respect, you're not humble, right? The dictionary has another word for it. That's psychophancy, right?
Yes.
Humility
Exactly.
means humility means you treat everyone, whether it is the priest in the church or the priest in the temple or the
Yes.
janitor on the street and the municipal worker, with equal and same respect. And
Yes.
unfortunately, whether it's the education system or the homes around the world, they don't teach people to
No.
treat human beings with equal and same respect. You're trained to respect stature, position,
Yes.
wealth, power,
Yes.
titles. And that's why I asked you that, what do you mean by principles? I wanted to kind of
Yes.
unpack this for the audience also. So
Yeah.
values are the way that we are taught to practice the principle, but if we do not understand what the principle is, then you cannot practice the principles properly. Like, a lot of people will tell you, I'm mostly honest. You cannot be mostly honest. You're either honest or you're
Yes. Or
dishonest.
you're not honest.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So a principle is always an absolute. So that
Yeah.
is what I wanted to clarify. So seven that you spoke about are being human and kind, being compassionate. You resonate with animals, borderline misanthrope, just like me. Though I love working with people, I always say that, humans could be much better if we understood how to be
Yes.
humane. And
Yeah.
you display courage, you demonstrate courage, you're resilient, you're tenacious, and you're principled. So those are the seven descriptors.
Yeah.
Sujata, I know everyone's waiting to know more about your book, and it's a very interesting title, Against All Odds. No retakes, no manuals, no, just real life lessons, right?
Yes.
So before we go into the book, you spoke about your daughter being raped, and I would like to know your entire journey of life, right? From childhood to what you're doing now as a business person, as a business, as an entrepreneur. So over to you. You have 9 minutes to walk us through your journey of life and tell us your life story. 9 to 10 minutes. Take your time.
Okay.
The
So
virtual stage is all yours.
you can always stop me. But I'll just go through the flow as briefly.
Surely, please go ahead.
So my father was a senior bureaucrat, and my grandfather was a freedom fighter. So I come from that kind of a background.
Mhm.
However, I lost my father when I was 10 years old. And my mother had only just done schooling, but because she was an IS officer's wife, she got a job on compassionate grounds. And she raised three daughters single handedly. And we were called the Anglicized Indians because even then we did not conform to society standards or rules. However, she learned it the hard way. And so she had just two things to tell her daughters. One is that you have to get a basic minimum graduate degree. And secondly, she advised us that we should be financially independent. And so that's how my journey started. Life as a child was difficult. I won't say it was, easy, because when you lose your father, it's not to only losing your father, it's to lose all the designation and titles and the, people, how they behave around those designation and titles. So one day they are calling somebody sir, the next day they don't even recognize. So, things like that. And we had to adjust to mom working, from being a mother who was always there to, now going for work. Anyway, I did that. Then, always doing outside the box. So I had a love marriage. I married the boy next door, and it was not in the same caste. So there was a lot of drama involved with it. However, I did that. Then I went on to try to be a model housewife. Didn't work. After 13 years, I rebelled. I had no degree except for a bachelor's degree. And, you need those certificates and degrees to get a good job, whether it was then or now. And I just walked into a walk-in interview without paper, without any experience, and I asked for a job in sales and marketing of computers. And based on my perseverance, skill, and the way I conduct myself, I got the job. 1 year down the line, it clashed with my husband's job, and I had to step down. And because spouses couldn't be competition, my next job was into journalism without a degree again. And thereafter 5 years of being a journalist, I progressed to anti-counterfeiting. And once I did anti-counterfeiting, I became a celebrity, and people started finding out what is this 5'1" lady doing with investigation raids and stuff like that. And I progressed to that. Moving a bit fast forward, I went abroad. And when I went abroad, again, the world said you don't have a business background, but I set up a business in Singapore. So as a foreign national, I set up business in a foreign country, which is not easy, but I did that. And then I had my spiritual experience where I met God. And yes, the rape case happened. And for 7 years, I fought a court battle. And then COVID happened, and I felt that I should write my story to inspire people, that if I could do it, so can they. So that in a nutshell is my story, most of it. I can't hear.
You've spoken about your first job, which clashed with your husband's. What was
Yeah,
that first job?
sales and marketing of computers. I had no background, nothing whatsoever. I was a housewife who didn't even buy vegetables on her own. But
Mhm,
I had decided that I want to work. I
mhm.
had no clue, because this entire journey, if you connect the dots, has been written not by me, but by the creator of whosoever it is. So I
Okay.
just went and I just approached a guy for a walk-in interview. In
Mhm,
those days, I'm talking of when you had newspaper ads, where you had walk-in interviews. And that's what I did. I just told this guy, you have to give me the job. And he said, well, your boss is going to be some guy who's going to be younger than you. I
mhm,
said, I
mhm.
have no ego. I just
Right.
want the job.
And how old were you at that time?
I was in my early 30s, maybe 32, 33.
Early 30s. And you were armed only with a graduation degree.
That's
And,
simple bachelor's degree.
and
In
which company did you join?
Now, that is a long time back. And as in the book, I've not mentioned names for various
Okay.
reasons. So I
Okay.
don't want to get into that.
Right. And how did this clash with your husband's job? What did you mean by that?
So what happened was that my husband was bidding for the same order. It was a very well-known chain of hotels, large group of hotels, and
Mm,
he was going for the same order. And his
okay.
bosses knew us very well, so they didn't like it when I backed the order. You see, when a guy who's been there in the industry doesn't get the order, and his wife, who's just hardly a year old in the industry, bags a large order, it was not viewed very kindly. So they came out with this rule that spouses can't be competition. So either of us had to step down.
So you
And
all were both working in the same company, you mean?
no, we were working for different companies. So technically, there was no conflict of interest, right? It
Right.
was just their
No,
mindset of,
but then if you're working for different companies, how would you step down?
they made
Who,
it a
who
rule. Basically, it's pressurizing my husband.
to not work in the same industry?
Yes, to
That's
step
that,
up
that
from,
that's very absurd because I mean in all my career I've never heard of this because if you're working for two different companies, they cannot make a rule for the other company
they
until and
can.
unless they put pressure on your husband that he has to get you to step down.
Yes, so
Okay,
exactly. So
right.
that was a thing. And obviously, my husband won't step down. Neither will I tell him that for my career, this thing, the breadwinner has to step down. So it's a way of telling me not to
But
get the
but but
order.
but going by what you said earlier that you were raised by a single parent after your father passed,
Yeah.
and to raise to be independent women. Why would you even think that the husband is the breadwinner? Because that's very regressive thinking.
No, it is not, because I was not earning. And the thing is that I wanted to be an earning person. I wanted to have my own money. But when
Right.
you're a housewife and there are
No, but
thousands,
now you're already earning, no?
now is different. We are talking of that time.
No, I'm saying you were already working in a company, so you
No,
were earning your money.
that was my first job.
Okay, okay, okay,
That was
okay,
my first job, which I
okay.
got. And it was hardly any, what, 3,000 salary or something. In those days, I'm talking.
Which
It
year
was,
was this?
this was, I don't know, in early 90s or something.
Okay, early 90s. And early 90s, 3,000 was a princely sum.
Well, whatever, but it was during that time, and it was, so I was just starting off and I had nothing. So I can't tell my husband, who is the major breadwinner, which is a fact, I can't tell him, you leave your job because I have to do my
Hmm.
things, right?
No, I find the thinking to be regressive then. I find the thinking to be regressive now because, I mean, and I say this because in India, the mindset is that, mostly the male is the breadwinner, even if the
Yes,
woman is
absolutely.
working. But that need not be true. I mean, and I
No,
always I always quote this one scene from a movie called Dil Dhadakne Do, where Rahul Bose is telling his friends, in my family, women working was not allowed, but I
yes,
have allowed my wife to work. And I think that
that,
mindset needs to change.
yes.
So somewhere I'm seeing a conflict of values over here, because on one side you say you have the courage, you have the conviction, but then the other side thinking is about the husband being the breadwinner, and I'm not being able to get my head around that. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, but what am I trying to say? I'm saying that that was the fact of this situation, and you can't expect the husband to leave his job
Right,
just because I wanted to start out on my career.
right, right,
That's what I meant, and
right. So this company
that is
actually put
why.
pressure on your husband to kind of
Yes,
get you to leave the job. All right.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So tell us what happened with your daughter, and what was that case all about?
What happened was that it was a scene of betrayal all around,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and she had gone out for a dinner.
mm-hmm,
And when she came back, the host who had invited her for dinner, he had invited her and another friend who's another girl.
mm-hmm,
And this guy, he had obviously for dinner, they had a little bit of wine to drink and stuff like that. And she was a little, tipsy or whatever you call it. And she was wanting not to, vomit or something like that. They were all in that stage. And she stopped the auto rickshaw, not near the gate, but somewhere there, and to vomit and all. And the building watchman, he took advantage of the situation.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So he went and knocked her out, and then he brazenly raped her
Oh,
and
sorry to
killed
hear that. So the building watchman where she was attending this party at a friend's place.
her. No, when she came back home, just a
Okay.
few meters away from the house, when she got off the auto to just sort of, throw up, that's when he hit her on the head and knocked her out.
So your building watchman.
Yes,
Oh, okay. And where, and which place was this?
this city is in Mumbai,
In
but
Bombay.
beyond that, I cannot say, as you would understand, because I have to protect the identity of the
Right,
survivor.
right, right, right. And then how long did the case
It
go
was
on for?
7 years because I had to first navigate the lower court.
Mm-hmm,
After
mm-hmm,
we got the verdict, he kept appealing and
mm-hmm.
appealing. So
This watchman kept appealing.
yes, so it
Oh,
went on to High Court,
mm-hmm,
and the
mm-hmm.
High Court verdict ended only just before lockdown, just
Okay.
before. So that's how.
So what was the final verdict? I mean, did you get justice for your
He,
daughter?
well, he got only 10 years. I'm not happy with the 10 years. I believe that for rape and murder, it should be either life sentence or death penalty. Those are my views,
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't only affect the victim, it affects the whole family.
Right. When you say for rape and murder, you're talking about two, because your daughter's alive
Yeah,
as
she's alive. I'm talking generally of
right.
two crimes where I believe that the strictest and harshest punishment should be given. It's like, that is what means justice, if you want to do justice.
Okay. Yeah. I would agree with you over there that rape should not be taken lightly and be
Yes.
treated at par with murder.
Yes.
So absolutely agree. And I hope your daughter's kind of worked around this now.
Yeah,
What,
yeah.
what does she do, and where is she located now?
She's abroad. That's all that I will say. She's abroad.
Okay.
And that is the spiritual journey that I said, when the entire society just ostracized us, they
Hmm.
stopped talking to us, they had nothing to do with us.
Hmm.
That point of time, when I talk of courage, this is what my courage is. I not only went to the cops, but my daughter was in a relationship.
Hmm.
And you know how Indians are,
Right.
you should know the mindset. And I went and told the boy's mother that this is what had happened.
Hmm.
because I was very clear I'd rather pick up the pieces now than later, as
Right.
I didn't feel that my daughter had anything to be ashamed of.
Yeah, your daughter had not done anything wrong. So why was
No,
society ostracizing you? I would like to know more
no, what
about
happened?
what you think
Yeah,
happened to society to ostracize you. Because I mean, she's the survivor, she's the victim over here. She's not the perpetrator.
no, that doesn't matter because for rape victims, you are looked down upon. Imagine that this girl, she got married to that boy. It one in a billions that the family accepted her as she is.
And from the timeline you're talking about, I would assume that this happened sometime around 2010, 2011,
2014, if you can.
14, right? 2014 is modern India.
Of course,
and
it's modern India, but people just did that. They
and
stopped.
in the city of Bombay.
Yes, if in the
Recent.
city of Bombay, a watchman can do that. If you have followed up any cases, I would like to remind you of a very famous case, which was Pallavi Purkaista, who was a lawyer, and she died of I don't know how many stab wounds because the watchman had tried to rape her. When he didn't succeed, he
Right.
stabbed her, and there was she knocked on every door, and nobody came to her rescue, and the
Right.
case went on for years.
So therein lies the problem of apathy, right? Because until it doesn't happen to me, nobody cares, and that's
Nobody cares.
that's one of the
Exactly.
reasons empathy has become the most essential skill of the future, which has to
That's
be
right.
taught to human beings now. That you
Yes.
need to be empathic.
Yes.
So
That's
tell us, Sujata, a little about the book. Because the book, against all odds, you say no retakes, no manuals, real life lessons.
yeah.
What inspired you to write the book, and what is the book all about? What are some of those uh, true stories that you told which serve as life
So
lessons?
there are so many stories in the book. For example, like when I was a housewife
Right.
and I had three small children, and I got stalked by a mafia don. Now you don't have a book in your library where you go and consult, okay, now the mafia don is talking, so what am I supposed to do? It's not like you can go to some counselor, therapist, or even to the cops and say somebody is doing that. You have to have some very big proofs. And secondly, the first question they will ask you, what did you do? A woman is always asked, what did she do to invite any kind of unpleasant occurrence?
Right.
And that is the reason why there are so many out there who do not come out, who do not go to court, who do not file any kind of report. So that was, I had to deal with the stalker on my own. And he was a mafia don. He used to come to my house in black tinted vehicles with no number plates and all that. And I had to literally use my wits to, stand ground. So there is no retake, there is no manual, there is nobody to consult. You have only your courage, your instinct to rely on.
Right.
When I went for my jobs, the same thing happened. There was nothing. Either I got the job or I didn't get the job, right? And so again, I never bowed down to society dictats or conformity. This thing that you have to fit into a box or you have to go and earn these degrees and then only you can go. Anti-counterfeiting is so specialized and niche. Either retired cops, lawyers, or judges do that. But I was handling it, so you can see that I never shied away from taking risks and challenges. My simple thing was, what best will I hear? A no, a rejection, right? Doesn't mean that I won't try. It's only when you try and you have conviction and you carry yourself in a manner that you might actually pleasantly surprise yourself.
Right. And again, I'm not, just help me to understand this, because your second job was that of a journalist, which you did for 5 years. And then you went into the anti-car counterfeiting sector and field
Yeah.
in your line of work. And yet you were finding it difficult to get the cops to understand that someone is stalking you.
No, all this happened later on. When I
Okay.
was a housewife, that's when the stalking happened. It
Okay.
didn't
Okay.
happen when I was in my career. It happened when I'd not started my career. It was
Okay.
years back then.
Okay, so you taken all those different stories from different
Yes,
parts of your life and then kind of put
absolutely.
them into the book. So
Yes.
what is the inspiration again of writing the book? Because what you said, you wrote the book during the pandemic. So what was that aha moment or that epiphany that happened for you, which said, I must write this book? Because you also told me that you first self-published it on Amazon,
Yes.
right? Because you didn't find a publisher, and then now you kind of
Yeah.
published it through one of the online publishing firms called Partridge. So what inspired you? I mean, what got into your head that you felt you had to write this book and get it
Because of the
self-published?
timing, as I told you, this is not orchestrated by me. When I had my spiritual experience in Barcelona, which I should tell you about. So
Right.
when the rape happened, before that I had gone to Barcelona, and there's a church called Montserrat. It's a real spiritual place. People from all walks of life, all faiths go there.
Hmm.
And this was just before the rape, and I had really resonated with that church. And so I downloaded some choir songs. When I came back, I used to do some meditation.
Hmm.
And the choir songs which I downloaded, they used to play by themselves. So even if I closed, these miracles were happening, it would still come on. Then I used to see in my meditation, I used to see angel wings, and then I used to see myself looking down a little hillock or a mountain. And then I used to see myself wearing red boots. I couldn't make out what it was. I just meditated, saw those things, and put it aside. And then when this case happened, and this music started playing, I said, I need to go back. And when I went back, I had booked an appointment to say my prayers at Montserrat. However, I had also met this Spanish chef in the country that I was living. And he said, go to this monastery, which is a very old monastery, and you go and meet the priest there. One of my daughters, my elder daughter, she does tarot card reading and angel card reading. Whenever she used to do angel card reading for me, the three cards that always used to come out were Archangel Gabriel, Michael, and Raphael. So she told me, wherever you're going, your angels are going with you. And when I went to Barcelona, there was a time, St. Joseph's Chapel, 1 o'clock. And you won't believe it, I couldn't find it. And when I found it, it was exactly 1 o'clock. The bell started ringing, the hymn started playing, and I just cried and I just told God, okay, I get it. You love me whether the world loves me or not. I went to the miracles, where the caves, where the miracles had happened, and there I saw the angel wings which I used to see in my meditation. How did I see first what I saw later? I went to meet the priest, and it was the same hillock from which I used to look down. When I told the priest my entire story, including my daughter's tarot card and angel card reading, I felt a little foolish, because priests can always not agree on such things. And he said, no, Sujata, it's providence. Would you like to meet your angels? I said, what do you mean? He said, this is the only monastery where the three archangels are depicted. Now, how do you explain that? And lastly, when I just before boarding the flight, I went to this store, and the store manager said, I've got something which you may like. It was a pair of red boots. And that started my entrepreneurial journey in Singapore.
So the
So,
same red boots that you had a vision about.
yes. And so I started doing that. When the case ended, COVID started, and I just felt a compelling and calling that I should write my journey now. Because if I was working, you always put book writing at the back, right? You
Right.
always, I'll write it tomorrow, I'll write it tomorrow. It never happens. Tomorrow never comes because it's a huge project. And so for 7 months, I would just write and write because I had to relive my entire journey. I had to relive my entire story, my trauma. So it took me 7 months. And what best when in COVID, you're locked down, you have nothing to do, right? So I felt that this is the time to write.
Right.
And that's how I wrote.
Right. The reason I asked you this is, because I tell stories of real heroes in my book, and
Yes.
with all due respect to your beliefs, I'm not a believer myself. I'm a atheist. I don't believe in God or angels or any heaven, right? But I believe that human beings can be angels if they want to. And
Yes.
I started my journey of telling stories, true stories of real heroes, which are
Yes.
chronicled in my Karmakari book series. These are ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things, and and and
Agree.
and people who are transforming the world, not just transforming their own life, but transforming the world, transforming society every day. So that is what inspired me. So I would just want to know what inspired you to write the book.
Yes. So what I'm saying is what you and I are on the same page because I always call the people human angels.
Right.
Look, God, even whether you believe or not believe, I'm also saying I was not born a Catholic or a Christian, but I
Right.
found my experience in a church. That's all that I'm saying. So it's not that we
Right.
were raised like that. However, look at the times when I needed help. It was random strangers who came to my help. For example, in this rape thing, when nobody stood by us, who stood by us? It was the Mumbai cops. The Mumbai cops are mentioned in my book. Some
Right.
of the finest and best known cops like
And you
Rakesh.
you name them in the book?
Yes, with their permission, I've written Rakesh Maria, Sadanand Date, Devan Bharti. So these cops are mentioned there, but if they didn't hold my hand, I don't know whether I'd get the courage to go forward.
Right.
It's very difficult to go to court day in and day out, which I used to do every single day.
Right.
I used to wear the same clothes and go.
Right. So, when I asked you for your profile, Sujata, you sent me a profile where you said Sujata Tiwari, enhancing lives, enhancing safeness, enhancing businesses, and the platforms of work. So, tell us a little about your work and how do you do all of this work, enhancing lives, enhancing work, and
So,
enhancing safeness, etc.
so enhancing lives and all, what has happened is in COVID times, for example, issues were there from ages, right? However, because of COVID and we got locked down, we had nowhere to go and hide. So, mental health and well being has become the buzzword. And now everything is coming out: domestic violence, all kinds of abuse, suicides. All this is coming out because you have nowhere to go. And when you're cooped up in the house, it only escalates. So, world over, whether it's in different parts of the world, I help women to escape or to find solutions from such problems because I have the experience. I know what to do. I know how to guide them. And that is what I mean by enhancing lives, for those who need my advice. And in Singapore, I'm dealing with mental health and well-being in the chambers of commerce and all. So there's an interest group there, and we tell the business owners how to look out. At the end of the day, no matter what business you do, you're a human being, right? You will go home and you will have those challenges which you face in daily life. So it doesn't matter what suit and tie you wear. But when it comes to abuse, when it comes to unhappiness, when it comes to anxiety, depression, these are all human characteristics, and all of us go through it. It's our choice how we deal with it. So that is what I do.
All right. And what do you mean by enhancing businesses? How do you enhance businesses? Because I mean, do you work with them as a consultant or a?
Yes, I work with them as a consultant. For example, if there are foreigners who are entering Singapore, how
Mhm.
to set up the business, or if they've already got a business and it has closed, then how do they pivot and look at alternatives? Because you are used to going for paycheck to paycheck. You're used to functioning in a different mindset, right? That this is what I entered. So if you're an engineer, you're a doctor, or you're a chartered accountant, you don't think beyond the box when things happen, right? But
Right.
now things have happened so drastically that you have to reinvent yourself. And for that, you need, first of all, the courage to take a decision that I will try something new. And then it's a matter of sitting with the people and defining what their skill sets are, which they may have never done, but they can start doing now.
Right. Great. So tell us a little more about the book. I mean, what is the theme that binds all the stories? What are those critical life lessons which you feel that a reader would get from the book when they read the book?
So,
What is the central theme which binds all the chapters and the stories? And
yes.
what are the some of the life lessons which a reader can take away?
So these are the life lessons that no matter what the situation is, I mean,
Mhm.
I've done a whole spectrum, right? So no matter how difficult it is,
Right.
the one thing that you have, which nobody can take away, is your courage. If you decide, I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to try to do something instead of giving in. Look, if you put it under the carpet and you say, no, nothing can be done, and I give up, then that's it. Every trauma, every tragedy actually builds up your character. So that is a choice that you make. And there are so many stories which I've covered here, which only shows that every time I was totally alone. I only relied on my inner confidence in my courage, and I decided nothing is lost by trying. So give it that shot. And that is why I wrote this book, because there are thousands of women I know who don't come out, who just don't come out. So I'm telling them, look, if I could do it, so can you. And in today's context, it's not only the women, it's also men, it's also children. They all go through all forms of abuse, bullying, workplace harassment, for example, right? Bad bosses. Well, how do you deal with them? So All those tips, all those things with real life lessons I have put in the book.
Right. So, do you want to read out one of the lessons, and so that people can get a feel of what a lesson could look like?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Which one would you like me to read out?
I,
There's
I
so
I
many.
I would let you choose whichever you want to read out.
Okay, so I think what I will do is I will read out the toughest thing because, that was the toughest. And, it tells you that why people don't report sexual abuse or trauma.
Right.
So I'll read that out because it's with the court system.
Right.
Shall I?
Sure. Please go ahead.
Okay. I had to hire a car for the whole day. Initially, I chose different cars so as not to leave trails as much as possible for the security guards who were spying on our movements. The first day, it started with lightning, and we left early in the morning for the 1.5 hour journey to the other end of the town where the court was from where we stayed. Lightning was nervous as hell. We reached early. There is a board outside the courtroom with listings of serial numbers to be heard for the day. Ironically, kindness and compassion are not gender specific. From day one, I was targeted as the main point by the defense lawyer. Weber was delayed and a number came up. Serial number, called out the clerk. Since I was to be a witness, which somehow the defense knew, it was strongly opposed of my sitting in an adjoining room. The lady judge was equally firm and said I would be allowed in her court. So I was permitted to sit in the adjoining room. Lightning was in tears once the questions started firing like bullets. She tried to say she would like to wait for a lawyer. No one, especially a rape victim, can be prepared for what happens in the witness box. The judge said kindly, I will take care. Just answer the defense lawyer questions. But the worst was that the rapist, the accused, was sitting there. What kind of laws do we have where you are to be in the presence of your attacker and go over the incident? In front of him, you have to talk of bite marks, genital pain, and answer questions on your character. She didn't remember that night, but knew now. So this time it was public rape, and you had to be aware and picture what this man had done to you and not say a word. And then you have to hear from the society to move on. Really? Bagade came in, but there was another lady, the assistant public prosecutor, who was speaking for Bagade. Her name I was to learn later was Nilima Kasturi. Bever came and Lightning looked beseechingly at him. I was carved in stone and ice cold. I could only think of the perpetrator in the next room. Lightning gave her testimony in tears. She was PW1, prosecution witness number one. Three of us born with names were christened again with given names PW1, PW2, and for me, I have a new name PW12. It takes almost a day, and at the end, we went home. There are no decent restrooms, and during lunch break, we had to look for a nearby cafe to eat just for using the restroom. My serious ill health started. Even though I didn't eat throughout the whole day, my sugar levels were soaring sky high. There was chest pain, and what I thought was bleeding was actually stool incontinence straining my panties. It was day one. Day two, it was PW2 Lotus who was to take a stand. She is the fiery one, and I had to caution her to be polite but firm and not lose her cool or be rattled or sidetracked, as that would be to the advantage of the defense. She had to repeat everything. Basically, both daughters had to literally undress and be naked in front of the perpetrator and let him gloat internally and relive his pleasures. For the next 3 months, except for weekends, I was to hire a car every day and I would go in the same clothes. They were washed only in the weekend. I would go early when the doors were opened and the sweepers came to clean the courtroom and tidy up. There were piles and piles of files dotting the floor on the sides of the room. On the judge's table and the table where the prosecutors sat there were thick, heavy books of law. When the judge walked in while passing through to her chambers, she saw me sitting like a statue in a corner. I also went early so I would have a place to sit, as in an open court there are many troubled souls who come and a whole horde of lawyers and sometimes journalists come and go too. Webber assured me that the girls had finished their testimony and maybe lightning may have to come one more time later. But as of now, they were not required. But I was going every day. There were 24 witnesses, and some of them I couldn't sit and observe as I had yet to testify. And so it was adjoining room. The staff were all kind with their looks as we never spoke, and as days went by, I was to become a familiar figure. People would identify me later by my uniform dress as the rape victim mother. Finally, it was my turn, and I had carried all the tapes that I had collected, all the evidence and documents that were needed. As I was fast learning and determined that I should not be caught napping, this was my only chance to be heard. Strangely, when my turn came, the defense lawyer made a motion to not accept my testimony and especially the tapes I was carrying. How did the defense lawyer know? I knew now for certainty that we were being watched. The judge overruled. There was some issues with the police tapes due to technical problem when was to be played in court. The accused was not present that day. His permission was sought via video conferencing. He was connected and he was asked, and he said no, he would like to be present. So it was carried over to the next day when His Highness would come from jail to watch with me. My stomach was burning and in knots, my temple was throbbing. There was a throbbing in the anal region, and the anal discharge was continuing. I was to wear adult diapers for most part of the entire duration. The next day, I told the judge from start to finish how I had not slept for more than a year. My trauma, the dog's trauma, my children's trauma. I let the narrative of the whole sequence of the CCTV, and he watched with a smirk. Wonder whether he was getting sexually aroused. Who knows? The judge admitted the footage despite vehement opposition by the defense. If looks could kill, he would be dead, but he was very much alive. I just made it back somehow home and locked myself in the room. I was drained and numb, bereft of feeling and sensation.
So that's been a very traumatic experience indeed.
Yeah.
And
It takes courage to even write such things, let alone.
I know, and it's all it's also therapeutic to put it down on paper, but
Yes.
I can't even fathom and imagine what your daughter must have gone through,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Yes, so surely it teaches you how to be resilient. You know, the science of resilience is something
Yes.
that I have done a lot of research on, and that's a series of books called Karishma, which is the miracle within, right?
Yes.
Because I always believe that the miracle is within every human being, and
Yes.
like you spoke earlier, that no one is free of suffering, no one is bereft of suffering. But when suffering happens, you need to kind of embrace it, learn
Yes.
from it, come out more stronger, come out more
Absolutely.
tougher, right? And that's what the premise of the Karishma books are, that in life all of us break at some point, and many, but
Yes.
when broken, most give up and break down, while a
Yes.
few persevere and break through.
Yes.
And we basically kind of curated stories from around the world, people who are not just physically broken, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and even morally broken, people
Yes.
who have been in gangs, people who have been
Yes.
thieves, people who have been drug traffickers, but now have completely reformed, and
Reformed. Yes.
are leading a life of righteousness and a life of doing good. So great. I'm happy that you have kind of assimilated all your pain and suffering and have channeled that to try and help to heal others, to help to help others who are suffering from mental and emotional health problems to get some therapy. And I think that that's what the central theme of the book would be, right? So tell me, what is the process of writing that you followed? This is for all our aspiring writers who plan to write their own books. If what is the process? Like, I tell stories of real heroes, and
Yes.
I follow a simple process which is based on Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, right?
Yeah.
This is a process which many screenwriters, screenplay writers in Hollywood also kind of adopt. It's
Yeah.
called The Hero's Journey, and uh, if you see this particular book, which is a very popular book by Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird, you will
Yes.
see that, we all living in an ordinary world, like you were living in
Yes.
an ordinary world. And then the call to adventure happened because your daughter got raped, and now you had to kind of emerge out there, because you had to be the strong
Yeah.
person to ensure that your daughter does not lose strength. And then there's that hesitation which happens, which is the refusal. So if
Yeah.
you look at Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, here's Atticus Finch, who is
Yeah.
called to adventure to defend a black man in
Yeah.
good old times of the Ku
Yes.
Klux Klan. And
Yeah.
then the refusal that, if in case I defend the black man, then the whites could go against me.
Yeah.
And that's the journey. And every book, whether it's a fictional story or a non-fiction story, has a hero, a villain, and a victim. And the hero is always the person who's doing something to make a difference. The villain is the person who's taking advantage of the situation, and the victim is the person who has been victimized. And the villain could not just be a human being. It could be a man-eater, like a
Yeah.
man-eater tiger, or climate change, or
Yeah.
casteism,
Yes.
right? And then the victims. So what is the process that you followed to write your book, and what are those tips on writing that you would like to share with all our aspiring and budding writers?
So, since I had some amount of writing experience when I was doing journalism, and I've always had a passion for writing about people. So, whenever I used to write, I used to profile people. That's always been my passion area because I like to know the people inside, not what you superficially see outside. So, if you want to write, first and foremost, you don't leave it for tomorrow. You decide that you're going to write, you know what subject you're going to write, so you make a sort of checklist of how you're going to structure the story, because that is very important so that the flow goes accordingly. And once you have put that into pen and paper, then you start writing. You have to schedule that, okay, I'll do so many words per day. So once you have a word count, or you know what your story is likely to be, then you must do that word count strictly every day. Like I wrote nonstop for 7 months. I almost lost my eyesight, but I used to write from morning to day. And some doctors even asked me, they said, "Can we ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." They said, "Did you write a journal or a diary?" I said, "No." Why? They said, "Because it is so detailed and so factual. And if you are going to do research, that also takes time. Like I have done a lot of research into statistics, which I've put into the book, you know. So if you have to do that, you have, it's like a project, and it's like a 9 to 5 job, you can say, where you have to give it that dedicated time if you want the book out. Otherwise you can procrastinate and you can keep this thing. And nowadays we have all kinds of technology and tools to help you write the book. You know, you have audio to make it into text, text to audio. You have all those kinds of softwares which you can do. And if you don't find anybody who's going to publish it, then I would always say go to Amazon. Amazon is so good that you can publish and you can republish a published book. If you want to add a chapter, you can do that at no cost. So Amazon doesn't charge you anything. It has a tool.
Right.
You put your manuscript into it. They take, I think, 2 days or so just to see that there's nothing, objectionable or something. And once they go ahead, then they just approve of your book.
Right. So great insights over there on writing. And I think the key takeaways are: be disciplined, write a few paragraphs or chapters every day.
Every day.
Be
Yes.
disciplined, let your thoughts flow from mind to pen to paper.
Yes.
And that's exactly what I do. I write every day, but at the end of the day, I may not like what I've written, and I would kind
You
of
can
revise it and refine it. But
yeah, you can keep
slowly the
revising
chapter
and
starts forming. Yes,
re-editing. That any writer
absolutely.
will do. But
And
at least if you have got it going,
yeah,
it's easier.
and please write, when you write, keep in mind that you need to give some definite takeaways, definite
Yes.
insights for the audience, for the readers.
Yes.
I've just completed my Weekends with Zoe book, which is
Yeah.
a true story of a 16-year-old girl who appointed me as a life coach in the
Yeah.
last few days before dying, right? So she was on her deathbed when she appointed me as a life coach, and
Wow.
therein lies the plot of the book. And of
Yeah.
course, my Karma Kari books are all about true stories of real heroes. So great insights to be shared on writing by Sujata, and I hope that helps all our budding writers. And Sujata, to conclude, if there are any compelling life lessons that you would like to share with the audience, or read another chapter, something which would provide some life lessons, and then we shall conclude with that.
Okay, so
Please
you
also show the audience your book. Yeah, I've of course had it on the slide all along, but please show them the book. To all the
my
people who have joined us on Facebook Live,
my
very
book,
compelling insights and life
and
lessons.
this is the book that I will recommend people if price is not an issue to buy this book, because
Right,
this is the one which is original and in color. So,
right,
the pictures are in color, the font is this
right.
thing.
It's available on Amazon, Barnes
Yes,
and Noble, and several
everywhere.
other
Yes.
online bookstores. So
Yeah.
please do buy Sujata's book. You'll have some compelling life lessons without retakes or without manuals. So over to you, Sujata.
Okay, so you want me to read another chapter, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Do you want me to read my spiritual experience, or you want me to read some other thing like the stalking thing?
Yeah, so you can read about the stalking thing.
Yes, I think that will be interesting, because in those days and even now, things have not changed very much. In those days, when my mother was making frequent trips up and down to try to sell the property, I would engage with potential buyers who came through the ad put in the paper. One day, I called up a number, and those days we used to dial numbers on the phone. There were many cases of wrong numbers or cross connections through that system. I, without waiting to check credentials of the person at the other end, talked about the property and appointment to meet and discuss, and gave him all the details, which he listened to patiently. And at the end, when he had to say his bit, he said softly that it was the wrong number, but it was nice talking to me. His voice was unmistakable. I was very upset and angry, as he had not interrupted in the beginning to say it was a wrong number. I disconnected and continued with my calls, but ensured that I established that the number and name matched. Temporarily, I forgot about it. Not for long, though. He started calling every night and would talk for at least an hour. At first, I just did not know how to deal with the situation. Initially, he started by saying that he liked to talk to me because he liked my voice, and there were many topics on which we could talk. My first reaction was, should I be offensive or should I somehow put him off? Saying no is not always an answer to your stalker, that too without knowing the background, the potential of how dangerous your pursuer was or could be. I was living alone with three small kids, as my husband had been posted back to another city. The dangers of my predicament were acutely clear in my mind. That time, there were no Me Too movements, and most people did not bring out such things in the open. The laws of the land, while in theory may be superficially geared to deliver justice, are however modeled in reality on how the society functions and thinks. In reality, the first response in court or elsewhere you complained or brought it out in the open, one would become the accused from the victim in the questioning line, which is to primarily establish your role or action which invited the attack. This becomes the deterrent and the largest reason till date of unreported cases. I was polite and thought that maybe he was just wanting to be a friend, and after a few calls he would stop. However, alas, that didn't happen. The veiled threat was delivered in a very soft tone. I know where you stay, and I'm very influential. I was chilled but put up a brave front. After a few conversations, I decided on a tactic, that what if I didn't take his calls and maybe he was bluffing and he would just go away. A few days later, in the dead of the afternoon, when I returned with my son, I entered the house to find a visitor waiting for me. There was an unmarked car, no number plate, parked outside the gate. The maid informed me that a visitor was waiting for me. I was frozen from inside when I realized who it was, but pretended to be unruffled, and in my polite way conveyed to him that I do not appreciate strangers dropping by unannounced. And I remember he said with a smile, "Ma'am, we are not strangers. We talk almost every evening, and since the last couple of days, you were not taking the calls. So I came by to check if everything was okay." Seemingly innocently, he also let me know that he had already inquired while waiting for me from my maid that the phone was in a working condition. So even if I was thinking of using the excuse that the phone was not working, it was already gone. He didn't sit for very long. It was only to let me know that he knows where I stay, and in broad daylight, he must have wanted to check me out. The fact that he had even seen the interior of the house and had an idea of the layout. Since I could not let my tension and worry transfer to the maid, I had to act very normal. It was for nothing that I had a library or an interest in investigation, detective matters, espionage, etc. I was acutely aware that my maid could be bought over and the danger of collusion would be there all the time, even if I changed the maid, which would be with great difficulty, as there is no guarantee that the one coming in would come with the required integrity that I was seeking. Reluctantly, for the time being, I had no choice but to resume our conversations. Although I could not openly share with the children, my stress was felt by them, especially Lotus, and they could sense at the hour when the calls came without fail that it was not something pleasant that was happening. He even asked me if I was scared. I said, should I be? He would often ask me to go out for dinner, and I would never say yes. One day in the evening, he landed up again with food. What will I do? At that moment that he came in a car which had tinted glasses and no number plate, the electricity went off. It used to be called load shedding, and once that happened, it would not come for hours. The entire locality would be in darkness. I was saved by the angels. I told him I couldn't find the keys in the darkness, so I couldn't let him in. He stood outside the grill door of the porch, and I was on the other side of the grill door. We talked for a while and then he left. Of course, I didn't eat any of the food. By then, not only did I know him by face, I had come to know that he was a big, influential businessman, more like a mafia don because of the way he had unmarked cars, his reluctance to give his name for quite some time. I did not even know whether the name he gave was his real name or not, but one day there was an article with his picture and name in the newspaper, so then I knew. Finally, in this game, the build up time arrived, and he proposed that I should go on a holiday abroad with him. This was the time when there was no beating around the bush or any strategy. This was not going to go away. I had to tell him off, which I did and said that it was an improper and inappropriate suggestion. If he thinks that I'm a bored housewife who wants to get into a situation for excitement or materialistic gain, then he was barking up the wrong tree. The calls stopped. Shortly thereafter, one evening, stones were thrown at the window and shots were fired. We were in the city of forefathers, and Ma dug out some connects in the police, and so we had cops land up at our place. I wasn't at home, but the girls were brave, and the cops were very impressed with the kids. For a few days, there was a guard monitoring our place. So the message to the stalker was loud and clear that we too knew people and were the types to take action.
Thank you, Sujata ji. Very powerful story again, and thank you for sharing that. And reminds me of that old saying by Mandela that courage is not the absence of fear, right?
Yes,
But the triumph over that fear, right? Because you
absolutely.
stand strong
Yes,
and you stand tall and you take on whatever fears you feel, and you take on whatever the person who's oppressing may be, right?
yes,
Whoever they may be, because you don't assert yourself, you don't stand strong, they will trample over you and walk all over you. So
absolutely.
great, thank you for sharing those stories and life lessons. For
Yeah.
all the people who have joined us on Facebook Live, thank you for joining us on Facebook Live, and please do uh, buy Sujata Tiwari's book Against All Odds on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles, whatever your preferred online store is. Thank you, Sujata Tiwari, for joining us, and thank you for all your stellar work. Keep doing good and keep walking
Thank
tall.
you for inviting me and
You
letting
are
my voice
welcome.
be
You are
heard.
well. Yeah, you are welcome, man. Take
Okay.
care and have a great evening. What's left of it. See you. Bye bye. Namaste once again. Thank you.